All right, guys, got a little mail call today. Thought I would share. As many of you may know, or some of you may know, I've been doing a record collection, CD collection, tape collection, that sort of thing. And I've set it up kind of in a what I call a mall feel, just in the corner of my shop. Nothing real special, but I went ahead and painted it up. I found the old Tape World logo online and fell in love with the design of the logo. So I decided to just call it Tape World. Uh, One ironic thing you see online is people talk about Tape World from way back in the day, the people that remember it anyway. They always say, it's kind of funny, there was a place called Tape World and all they sold was tapes. They didn't have records or anything. You think that they would have had a little bit of everything. The fact is, there are many photos of Tape World that you can find on Google, and they all show that they had records. It was a record store. So there's this funny thing with, if you call a place Tape World, people think there's only tapes there. But if you call a place Record World, which there was a Record World, people know that you have records, tapes, and 8 tracks or whatever, anything music related. So it's just kind of a funny little thing that I've kind of noticed lately. And we got a few records in today. I made an offer on these, and I don't know if I overpaid or not. The way I look at it, anything around $10 is a pretty good deal, and I think I gave $60 for these. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 albums here. So I'll start off with this one here. Back in the day, this definitely got a little bit of play. It was a fun album. Obviously, some of their songs were actually Slade, and they had redone them. If you haven't heard the Slade version of, probably "Come On, Feel the Noise," I think they had 2 songs on this album, maybe that were Slade. But either way, go look up the Slade versions because they're really good, and they don't sound a whole lot different. I mean, they're a little more dated, they're a little more raw in the garage, but they were a really good band. And Quiet Riot captured the feel. I have read stories where the band didn't really care for the songs and didn't want to do them. They were kind of pressured into it or something like that. But regardless, they done a good job, and they always had a live feel. Even when they're recorded, these guys sound kind of like they're doing it live. So, well worth checking out. If you haven't heard it, then you probably weren't alive in the 80s. Then we have some of the ultimate metal, Iron Maiden, and this one is a double LP, which personally I've seen this one here bring like 30 to 40 bucks by itself, and probably higher than that sometimes. But anyway, so I feel pretty good about that one. Stay Hungry, I was a big Twisted Sisters fan. I think around like 6th grade or so, I remember carving TS in my arm, like the logo there. It's funny things that kids do, and the effect that music has on our lives. Fortunately, it didn't stay. I didn't go deep enough that it scarred, so it went away, and I have some tattoos in that area now, anyhow, so it wouldn't have mattered. Then we have Under the Blade. This one didn't have the success as Stay Hungry. Stay Hungry was the one that launched them off. And this album looks like it's in pretty good shape. The record itself, it could probably use a cleaning, but it looks like it'll play. And I'll probably put it on later this evening. But I do like the songs on here. They sound a little more garagey, a little less polished, in my opinion. So might want to check that out. If you're a Twisted Sister fan and you haven't listened to this, then you're not a fan. That's all I got to say about that. Wasp, not the biggest fan of Wasp. They had a few songs that were pretty good, but I just never was insanely crazy over Wasp. But I got a lot of friends who were, and there's a lot of memories from it, from friends listening to them. So definitely worth the collection, even if I'm not a major fan. It's still worthy of my collection. Theater of Pain, it gets hammered on quite a bit because in that era, prior to this, they pretty much had kind of a different look. They were going one with the leather and the red and black leather with the knobbies and lots of pentagrams and all this sort of thing. And then this album comes along, and they're probably closer to dressing like Poison. They're a little more makeup-y and stuff like that. So a lot of people weren't crazy about this particular album. It had a remake on there, Smoking in the Boys' Room. If you haven't heard the original, go look that up. I think it's really good. I believe it's Brownsville Station, I think is the name of the original band. And I think it's pretty good. Some of the songs that I liked on here never really got big. I like Raise Your Hands to Rock. I like that pretty good, and it starts out with an acoustic guitar and stuff, so it's not super heavy, but it's a good tune. Louder Than Hell, it's a good tune. I mean, there's some good tunes on here. I've seen where Vince Neil didn't like this particular album when it came out, but at this point, it's Vince Neil, and then we've got a Dio album here, and there's a couple songs that I like on this one. My favorite Dio is Last in Line. That's my favorite album, but I'm not going to kick this one out of bed either. And again, it looks like it needs some cleaning. It's got some surface scratches. I hope that it plays. That's one thing with vintage records; they get a little scratch. A lot of the dead formats and the vintage media, like with cassettes, if they ever get the tape comes out into your tape player, and you wind it back in with a pencil or something like that, it's always going to have a little ripple in it, so it's going to have a little bad spot. And records are that way with scratches. CDs can get a scratch and then they won't play at all, so they don't really. I mean, they can skip, I guess, but for the most part, if they get a bad spot in them, they just completely quit. So anyhow, that is today's mail call on some albums, and I'm happy to have them here for the visuals, if nothing else. I will probably listen to some of these. I picked up a old record player. When I say old, it's probably a late 80s, maybe early 90s record player. And it actually works pretty well. So I've been listening to some albums. I put on Ace Frehley's solo album the other night, and I'll be honest, I've not been listening to Kiss like I did when I was younger, when I first started out. So hearing it again reminded me there was actually some pretty good tunes, and also reminded me how much Ace Frehley sounded like Sweet. If you don't know who Sweet is, look them up. Look up Fox on the Run. Ace Frehley actually redone that song, and it's pretty good. I mean, he could have played in Sweet just as good as he did with Kiss, because he sounds a lot like them. But anyhow, just stuff like that interests me. I like knowing the original versions. I like going to looking them up. I like the history of it and all that too. So hopefully it inspires somebody watching to go out and check it out. There's a whole world out there that we don't know about sometimes, and it's a lot better than the negativity that's going on and things like that these days. So anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I will be doing some more soon. I ordered, I think, 25 albums from a guy. He says they're all low grade, so they may not even play. A lot of them are untested. Taking a risk, but they were fairly cheap. So, I figure if they're cheap and they don't play or they skip real bad, I'll end up eventually, when I get going further on the shop, I'm going to go down another 10 foot or so, but I'm going to display some albums up. So some of those might end up for just display, but